before good news.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Hey, we're live.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to call to order this Town Council meeting, August 13, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, Cleveland. Wow, this feedback is something else. I think it's really loud. Can we turn them down?
Not know which buttons to turn.
Okay.
So just make sure they're facing you. And or the ceiling. The empty one needs to be upper one.
Just pull it out. It'll come right out. Just pull it right out. There should be a little clasp right there to let go.
I don't think it comes unhooked. I don't think it's on. Oh, maybe it's Alan's.
Okay.
We just give it a try.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Let's go.
All right.
Yeah, that's our best work right there tonight.
Roll call. Councilor Ward?
Here.
Councilor Colby? Here. Councilor Brunel?
Here.
Councilor LaRochelle?
Here.
Councilor Albert?
Here.
Councilor Lund?
Here.
All right.
And
Should I just adjust the microphones just one more time?
Yeah, sure.
See if that will help.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
This is the end of my expertise now. So these are like there. Nothing else is attached, right? All right, we're good.
Okay.
Good as we're going to get.
Yep, it is. So the next item would be good news and recognition, or you could take up the DEP Mill Street Dam removal if there were no objections.
I think if there are no objections, I think we'd like to move that to the top of the list, yes.
All right, so Mill Street Dam removal.
I have some handouts for you.
Absolutely, please.
We have some maps. These are basically a small version of what's up there. It's kind of hard to see because there's a lot on there. And this is basically a summary sheet of the projects we have going on the Spaddock River.
Yep.
I want to throw that door open and listen, but I think that would probably not be appropriate.
All right. My name is David Wright. I'm the Director of Remediation at the Maine DEP, and Danny Obery is with me as well. And we also brought some folks from the Department of Marine Resources that can talk more towards the dam issues. And Diane thought it would be helpful if we were here to answer some questions. I know there's some questions from last time. I was going to give some very brief remarks and then open it up to DMR if they want to have a couple opening remarks, and then mainly answer your questions. So the Mill Street Mill is a site where there was a mercury release into the river. We did most of that cleanup back in 2009. There was one section that we couldn't clean up the sediment there because it was too close to the water line. We didn't want to rupture the water line. Well, with DOT doing the bridge work recently and the water line being moved underneath the bridge, we're now able to go back and get that sediment. So Danny had proposed that we allocate some of the limited state money that we have to address that sediment. And one of the criteria that we use to score each of the thousands of projects that need to be done in the state is, are you cooperating with other entities? Is there a reason to do it now? And at the same time, DMR has been working for several years to restore fish passage along the river. And we saw that there was a cost savings to the state if we worked together to do the sediment removal and the dam removal at the same time. And so we did decide to move forward with the sediment removal and the dam removal concurrently. That will also help facilitate cleanup of the bona fide landfill site, which is just above the, further upstream from the Mill Street Mill. That's a site where they used to manufacture, you guys probably all know this, but they used to manufacture linoleum there. They have the landfill right next to the river. It's linoleum, which is not terribly bad. The issue was the backing had asbestos and PCBs in it. And we worked with the responsible party for that site to remove most of the big logs of linoleum. There's still fragments in the river of the linoleum with the backing, and we'd like to get as much of that out as possible. It'll be easier if we do that at low water to do that. We also understand that DMR wants to remove the dam that's just upstream from the bona fide landfill, which we're planning to close. And that's going to change the hydraulics of the river, change the force of the river. And before we started talking to them, we thought they were going to pull out, most of the water would go away from the landfill. Well, because of the structure of the buildings on that side of the river, they're really thinking they're going to pull out along the landfill side. So we're working with them to design the riprap so that when we do close out that landfill, we're not going to have problems down the road. One of the things that we want to do is remove the big pieces of linoleum that has the asbestos PCB in the backing. We want to take that material and put it on the landfill to help with the shaping and grading, and then we can cap it all and close out that project as well. Once we've done that, we've taken care of the majority of the sites up along the river. You can see there are several other sites. We've given a summary. I'm not going to go into that. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Most of those are closed out generally. We go back and inspect them, look at them on occasion. The one site that is still fairly active is the former Maine Electronics facility. We've got a groundwater extraction and treatment system there. We're working with the new owners of that site to see if there's a faster, cheaper way to get that site remediated, make sure there's not going to be any impacts to the river. There's also an emerging contaminant that is the focus of a lot of DEP's work more recently, and we want to check for that at that site, make sure we don't have an issue with that. And that's basically my opening statements. I don't know if Casey or Gail want to say a few words about the dams, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You want to say a few things before?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm Casey Clark. I also work with Gail from Maine DMR. And I guess just to follow up on a few things that Brian said, the lower dam on the map, which is also known as the Farwell Dam, while we would like to at some point see fish passage at that dam, we do not have a plan currently to do so. So at this point, our advice has only been to say that at some point either that dam will need to be repaired so that it can stay where it is, because it currently is not maintained, or we would like to potentially work with a partner to partially breach it and put in a fish passageway, so you'd see a small fishway to go up the side of it or something along those lines. But beyond that, I think we're happy to open up for...
Yeah, you want to talk about overall goals?
Yeah, I guess so. So the Androscoggin River currently has a pretty decent-sized run of alewives, and that's one of our primary drivers. We really want to do a lot of restoration in the drainage. And currently, Maine DMR stocks Sebatis ponds. We take fish that are captured at the Brunswick Fishway and use our stocking trucks to put them up in a Sebatis pond, and we've been doing that for 15 years now. Yeah, so 19 years now. And the Sebatis pond is really the only place where we have a good out-migrating population of alewives. So we put them into the river, they spawn, and then the juveniles come down through the Sebatis River. And with the exception of the Sebatis, we don't really have a lot of production in the Androscoggin currently because the rest have a dam or some other passage issue at a lot of places. And that's primarily because of larger dams that are further up the river that prevent passage. So our overall goal for the Sebatis River would be to eventually have enough either fish passage, technical fishways at the dams on the Sebatis River, or removing some of the dams that are not currently used, such as Mill Street or the rubble dam that's further up, so that fish can access that on their own. So ideally, we're no longer truck the fish from Brunswick, but instead release them to swim on their own. And just as one other further note for this, we've been working with the town of Sebatis on this as well, and our agency has done similar things to restore runs of alewives. And one of the incentives for towns is that once those runs are established and they're maintained for a certain number of years, monitored to make sure that they're sustainable runs, that the towns would have a stake in a potential fishery for those. And so usually how that'll work is that a town will contract with the fishermen. They'll come in and harvest and then set up a certain amount of the fee that the fishermen would get from their landings. And so most towns that we work with at this point are happy to work with us because that is a small tax base for the town.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, and this is kind of a follow-up, and I appreciate the water department being here tonight too. I'm not sure if this is their only reason of being here, but one of the things that for DEP in years past, some of the communication on the water pipe and the mercury underneath the water pipe was the idea of, the water pipe really needed to be removed to actually get the sediment out. And from talking with the water department, I guess there's really no plan on actually removing the pipe, and they were curious. I'm just kind of curious where that all falls into place as far as for long-term wise.
We don't own that pipe. We just know that it's been discontinued, so we're not going to be touching that pipe. Was the water district going to be removing it? It's their pipe.
Yeah.
Is our understanding. So we're just going to get the mercury-contaminated sediment out from around it and under it.
Yeah, I know there was a question at one point of the idea if the water level was lower and if there was actually something that was hit the pipe. And then that was just one of the questions that were followed up from the last one. And when I asked Bill, he was really unsure exactly if there was any plan. At this point, I don't believe there's any plan for the water department to remove that pipe either, is there?
We were asked to remove it by the DOT because they didn't want to get involved in the remediation.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, when we're done, it could go.
Right.
And the sediment, the contaminated sediment wouldn't be there, so it wouldn't be an issue.
So there wouldn't be any danger as far as leaving that pipe there at that point after, as far as for the water department or
Correct.
And I think that was just one of the questions that, it was meant to left there before because the sediment was on these, so it couldn't be removed, and the process, the idea of putting a new pipe under the bridge, kind of left that being.
When we're done, feel free to take it out. Thank you.
And may I?
Please, go ahead.
And Bill, is there any danger or any concerns or anything with that pipe being left there? I'm not sure if you came prepared to speak or not. Just I know that's been a question.
Glad to talk to her. No,
Just
there's no danger with the pipe. It's been physically cut on both ends in the bank end, so that it wouldn't, if something, say for example, some trees come down the river or something, if it hooked it, we didn't want it to do any damage to the bank itself. So it's just sitting there, and it was part of our original scope of work when they were preparing to do the bridge project, and then DOT asked us to leave it there because of the remediation of the whatever's in the river. I don't know, and we agreed.
Any idea what the depth of the water is there to the pipe, or is that 15, 20, less than that? I was just curious how.
I don't think it's that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less than 10 feet. And once the dam's actually removed, any idea what the water level will be at that point
would say that, at most, when we're taking, all we're going to really try to do is remove sections of the actual built structure on top of the ledge that's there. And so that would be at most maybe 4 or 5 feet of the dam, and so the water would drop by that much, by 4 or 5 feet right at the dam. So not knowing what the actual elevation looks like in that immediate area right there under the bridge, I don't know how much water we'll lose right there. But
All right, thank you. I know that was a question that we had a while back, was it about the pipe and if it was to remain. Yep.
Go ahead,
So we're going to, down the road, after we get, I don't know how many of these fish you're talking about there, I'm not sure how many down here already, in this 5 feet of water that we're going to commercially fish these. Not sure what that was all about, thinking that somewhere down the road that we're going to be able to commercially fish these and get money for something. Is that what you're talking about?
that was me who said that. And yes, so alewives around the state of Maine, the rights to those alewives, once they come back to a certain body of water, whether that's Sabattis Pond or Harbor Pond or anywhere else along the state, the towns that those waterways pass through or end at own rights to those fisheries unless they gave them away, and those would have been historically given away, 1800s, 1850s or something. But as far as we know, none of the towns around here have given away rights or made claims to rights, and so once there's an established run of alewives, yourself as well as any other towns that are on the riverway would be able to make a claim to harvest those fish at a sustainable rate. Yeah.
How many of them fish are around right now that you guys have been tracking?
So
in the Little Sabattis River from from the pond to here?
yeah. So we generally track, I think it's around the order of 400,000 fish into the pond each year. And we expect that there would be a natural run of about the same each year.
So 400,000 of them come down the Little Sabattis River?
Juveniles, there's many, many more that come down. Absolutely.
Pretty small, right?
Yeah, this big. Yeah. And, within a month or so, if you look in the river, you'll see those fish. So.
Well, I have you there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking you're going to have a little boat or a net or something.
Yeah, so it depends on where the harvester is, but Benton Falls is actually a really good place where you can go see them harvest, where it's just a tin boat, and they have it hooked up on a rope, and they'll pull up right below the Benton Falls Dam there, braille fish into the boat until it's just about to capsize, and then they lower it back down the river maybe 20 feet or so until they can get to near shore, and then they literally bucket them out, put them into bins, send them up onto a truck up to the side of the road, and off they go. So, and I should mention too that where alewives usually go is lobster bait. That is primarily where these fish are being sold towards. So that is, as an agency who deals on a lot of marine fisheries, that is a big, big issue right now. We'd like to have more and more lobster bait.
They're actually looking at importing, right? Because they have a lack of extra bait or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question, you had mentioned it in your opening remark. You said that there's no interest in, or you're not interested at this time in taking the full dam out, only portions of it. That's what I'm hearing.
No, sorry, I was talking about the Farwell Dam, the lower dam that's in town here.
Yep.
From Mill Street, we're planning on removing all of the built structure, so all the concrete that is sitting on top of the ledge there. I do not believe that we're going to remove any of the concrete that's downstream of the dam, so there's a few other pieces of what used to be foundation of the building or other pieces along those lines, but no, just the piece of concrete that are on the dam. Yeah.
Thank you.
You were talking about it's dropping probably another 4 or 5 feet, so you might have 5 feet of standing water there. How narrow is that going to make the Little Sabattis River?
I think it's kind of hard to say without us going out there and looking at it, but if you walk down from the Farwell Dam, I think that there's a few sections there where you don't have impounded water, meaning that there's free-flowing river, and so you'd expect it to be similar, so maybe 8 to 10 feet wide, depending on how deep it is. But it's kind of hard for me to guess at that at this point without seeing it drop or going out there and walking there with it.
Well, it dropped not too long ago considerably for only a few feet. And again, I don't believe it's going to be a river when you breach that dam. That's going to turn into what we call a stream. It's not going to be a river anymore.
I mean,
it's going to be so narrowed up down through there. All the way. I'm talking about the Mill Street Dam.
That's already been breached.
I understand. If you take all
The Farnsworth Dam.
I'm talking about the dam. I'm talking about the dam you're talking about taking out right now off of Mill Street.
Yeah, he's talking
Are we talking about Farwell Mill, the one
Yeah.
that's in town, or are we talking Mill Street? I guess
Mill Street was really wasn't it the Juliet Mill?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The one that's near the pipe, I guess is what
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Correct.
When
I'm
you
not.
say Mill Street, that's exactly right.
I'm not only a council member here in the city, but I'm actually a landowner along the river.
Okay.
I know a lot of landowners along the river that weren't really happy about the first drop, that are still not really happy about what's going on now, or the second drop, because as I said, that used to be a nice wide, used to be nice. Now it's shrinked up, we got a lot of grass growing, we got a lot of stuff, more smell, and now you're gonna make it even smaller.
It is.
So it's to the people who own property or appreciated the river that was down through there, are a little upset about the fact that what used to be pristine is now shrunk and skinnied up for some fish that I'm never going to fish for.
Well, I understand
Ever.
that, but that I guess the point that I go back to, which I'd really like to emphasize here, is that we're removing something that nobody was maintaining and that breached and fell apart on its own.
It was actually, I don't believe that's true either. I believe it was helped breach. So that's a discussion on another level. You want to take out something that's going to make the water level less. It's going to be less appealing to the people who own along the property. The only people who are happy about it are the people who are in for the fish and the lobstermen who are going to get them few that are how many coming down the river.
Yeah.
Correct? That's who's benefiting from it. The people on the land are not benefiting from the fact that you're taking out and making our backyard water supply or our visual water smaller.
I would disagree with that only because removing this dam is actually going to help clean up the linoleum from the stream. So if we do allow the water to lower by removing this dam, cleaning it out,
Yeah.
it's going to help clean out the asbestos that's
The other problem
currently
is
in your
nobody was
stream.
maintaining this dam. So,
Nobody's maintaining it, right?
Correct.
The Mrs. Miller pulled up her boots and said, whatever you guys want to do, as long as it don't cost me anything. I get it. Right, I hear you. I understand what you're trying to do in the whole bit. I'm only trying to see everybody too, and not just the fish. I'm trying to be able to let you see the people who own land down there and enjoy the river and the ducks and, the bird life and the beavers and all that stuff that you're going to make smaller. Nobody came and said, hey, how do you feel about this? Nobody.
Mr. Chair,
They just decided, I'm running off. Go ahead, next.
Go ahead.
can you expound on how the removal of the dam, tying it together, would actually help with the cleanup effort? You mentioned the linoleum downstream, so put my head around that.
Yeah, currently, so the dam does slow up the water, so there's a small impoundment, a small reservoir that's above the dam. And so removing that dam, removing that head height of water is going to mean that it's going to lower the amount of water that's in the river. And by doing that, it'll expose more of the linoleum that's in the stream side or in the stream bed. And so just less water in the river is going to allow them to do a more thorough job of cleaning.
Well, he said when it drops. The river now is roughly 50 feet across, and where it used to be in some places 75 and 80 feet. You said now when he drops it, it's going to drop down to 5 feet possibly of water on the channel and maybe 10 feet wide.
And I was guessing at that. So
But do you understand what I'm saying? Do you hear the contrast of what was there,
Yeah.
what's there now, and what, when you're done, is actually going to be there is going to be a stream, literally.
it is, sir.
And it's going to clean up all that stuff that's been underwater for 100 years. How long has it been there? 80 years?
The 60s, since the 50s,
60s they were thrown in there, so 50 years, 60 years, 70 years.
So the linoleum cleanup is part of the scope of service as well?
yes, we are talking with Bill Wright, and they have a proposal into us to clean up about 1,500 linear feet of the Sabatis River with the linoleum in it. So we're talking towards the Mill Street.
Okay.
They're going to be taking all of that stuff out. They're going to dig about a foot out of the riverbed, and they're going to put it right back onto the bona fide landfill, and then they're going to armor that shoreline. So this year they're studying and they're trying to figure out a design plan for the shoreline.
How long's that landfill been leaking into that river?
It,
Since the 50s?
yeah, since
Yeah,
its inception.
More or less since
yeah.
they finished working there and walked away. And so the
Yeah.
responsible party is the group that's going to be coming back to do it. So they're not at this time forced to do it. They're volunteering to do it as a responsible industry partner. So
Help me understand the science, just so for the viewing audience. What, sense of urgency around this now, if we've gone 50, almost 60 years with this just being unmaintained and leaking into the river as such. Obviously, I understand the value of cleaning up anything that's environmental, has environmental impact. But just what's driving this now? Is it just because
How much is left after 70 years?
Yeah.
Well, there's quite a bit left after 70 years, to be honest with you. The thing that's driving it is really Miller went bankrupt.
Yep.
We
So
know.
now we're dealing with Built Right, which is a whole different animal, and they're actually stepping up to do this. We were working with Miller all of these years and trying to get them to do this. So, we haven't been dormant on these projects.
No, I don't think that was my intent,
No,
and,
no,
and
no,
that
I
was not. I was trying to. What I was trying to come from, what the place I'm trying to come from, is the science piece of this to understand why. Is it just as potent and potentially impactful in a negative way now as it was back then? Has it dissipated over time? That's where I'm driving at.
And actually, part of the reason why there's an impetus to do this in its sort of quick way to get it done now is because there's still landfill that's on the site and it's not closed. And so as water comes over the Farwell Dam, it is hitting right up against the edge of that landfill and actually pulling more material into the river each year. And I say that as in, like, this year there's new stuff that's in the river from that landfill. So the sooner we can get this done.
I just got one more. Yeah. So let's fast forward to we removed that foot of sediment for that 1,500 square feet there, and then we drop it into that landfill and they cap that. Is the cap maintained after that for the life of the cap? I mean, I want to understand all aspects of this.
It will be maintained for the life of it. The shoreline is going to be heavily armored with riprap. Right now, we're kind of discussing with the Army Corps, it's going to look like a wall of rock because we want to make sure that everything in that landfill stays there. We'd like to soften the appearance of it because it's going to be a wall of rock, and it's going to be a high wall of rock, so we'd like to soften it with some plants and try to make it look a little more natural, at the same time making it stable and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. But it will be maintained for the life of its.
Not going to have anybody on there looking. Probably nothing down there.
Yeah, we don't want any trees growing on it. It's going to be grassed.
I just wanted to understand the complexities of it and make sure that we all understand those.
It's fine.
Thank you.
And again, just from what I know of that bonafide site, my father said when he was a kid, my father grew up on Farwell Street basically when he was a kid and did a lot of swimming back there, which I probably never would have done, but they did. That used to be one of the wider parts of the river, and I suppose that landfill is potentially up to 20 to 25 feet deep of deposited material, sometimes 75 to 100 feet wide and right by the river, so it's not like a small amount of material. It's actually huge as far as for the amount of material that's there. So you had mentioned the idea of securing the bank. I mean, even if that is deep, say, below the water level, that riprap will still actually contain
Yeah,
that.
when you install riprap, typically you tow it into the shoreline, you tow it into the ground. So that's typically the installation, and that's what they've proposed to do. And they're going to be big boulders, and they'll get kind of a varying size. That's generally how they do riprap. These will probably be bigger because they want it to be really sturdy and stable and be able to withstand, any storms or anything coming through there.
Now, with any of these sites, and especially, you had mentioned like the main electronic site, which is actually still an ongoing process. Now, who actually, once the cleanup gets done and it does actually get capped, and I'm not sure if that's a VRAP type of location or not, where's the ownership of that property go? Is it actually the company that's actually doing the cleanup now is actually still responsible and actually retains ownership of that, or?
Joe Miller, I believe, still owns the property, as long as she's paying taxes on it, and unless you have done some other process, but she still owns that property technically.
Okay.
Built Right had a stake in the, I guess, development of the linoleum when they were manufacturing it. So
they're backing up to the point of finding the traditional
so
or the original.
they've got some cooperative agreement going on with Joe Miller at this time, since Miller Industries is no longer.
Yeah, because Miller Industries really didn't do anything besides the idea of just purchase the property and.
Yeah, this is what we understood from our Attorney General's office. So.
Gotcha. Yep. I was just curious on how that works as far as for ownership.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, I just have a question on who owns that lower dam currently? Is that
The lower dam, which one?
the one at basically the Farwell Mill, but the lower of the two? I know the town owns the upper dam, but I'm confused on who owns the lower dam.
Mill Street, are you thinking? What we're calling Mill
Not
Street?
Mill Street, but
Talking about
you-
the Farwell
you're-
Dam.
Oh,
the
Farwell Mill?
Yes.
Yeah, as far as we know, that is also owned by Joe Miller,
Okay.
but it's kind of unclear, and
Yeah.
we've actually reached out to the town to ask this question.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Anyone with any additional questions?
So in your opinion, this is actually the best course to be able to tie the actual removal of the dam to this? Because I'm hearing somebody that's actually working with the remediation on this, where we have a barrier in the middle of the river that actually would be contained at that point in its limited state, even if it's not being maintained. You pull that out, now you have the ability to have that move further downstream.
Yes, our current proposal right now with Built Right is to do their work next summer. So we are pushing them to get going, so to speak. But once the mercury contaminated sediments are gone, are you asking that you think that
No,
the linoleum
I know
will
that's been,
migrate
I
further?
know it's been a pooled resources to be able to get here. The fact that the Fishways people need the UA project and vice versa.
Correct.
In that regard, I am asking for assurances associated with this. Everything I've understood, and my limited understanding at this point, is the fact that the dam actually, if nothing else, served a function of keeping the contaminants at least to a point in the river, and that it wasn't going beyond that. You remove that, we lose that recourse.
Yeah, I don't think they were migrating further.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say if they're migrating
Yeah.
further. The linoleum is neutrally buoyant, so it doesn't sink, it doesn't float, it just kind of maintains in the water column, and eventually, if there's no flow, it'll slowly settle to the bottom. Meaning that it probably moves pretty easily with the water, but in a high water event, I assume that there is linoleum that's below the Mill Street Dam already. We don't know that. But removing it shouldn't cause any to move that fast downstream. You know, it's not as if we're opening up the sluiceway.
Okay, so we're not
Flushing
making
the
matters,
toilet.
you're not making matters worse by opening the
They don't think
causeway.
so.
Then let's timeline this out a little bit, because I want to understand where are we at right now. So the project's going to go underway. What happens first? How does this walk us through, please?
Well, right now, we've got the Mill Street Mill underway, the dam removal underway with that. We're going to be working on removing the sediments shortly.
Yep.
We are currently discussing with Bonafide or Built Right to do the work next summer, but they've got to do a series of contortions and do they've got to get some Army Corps permits as well as permits from the other side of DEP, which takes time, particularly with the Army Corps. So we're hoping for next summer, but we'll see what we
Next
can
summer
do.
for the completion of the removal of the linoleum
Correct.
and then the cap. But
Correct.
for right now, the removal of the dam and
Correct.
the contaminated sediment, that will happen
Correct.
before the snow
Yeah.
flies. Am I
Built Right
Yep.
wanted to see what the water levels were going to be after the dam was removed before they kind of did their more design plans on their project. So
have there already been pieces or portions? I haven't been down by the Mill Street. I'm sorry, I've been crazy busy. Has
No.
anything been moved yet?
No, it hasn't yet. No.
So is there any way just to take a water level reading somewhere upstream so that we can just kind of use it as a reference point if it hasn't already been done?
Likely, yes, and we might actually already have an elevation for the surface water there.
I think that would be helpful for us. We understand what the impact is. I think we all know that.
Yep.
We'd like to know where it at least coming from. The one thing we didn't have as a council to really kind of gauge this is that data from the last time something like this happened. So if nothing else, we have a reference point to understand this a little bit better. Not that we're going to see a bunch of this happening, hopefully anytime again, but when the Farwell Mill up by the Memorial Bridge there in Lisbon, that side breach on that caused a pretty significant hardship as far as how much that water drew in and then kind of shrunk down. So I think that what we wanted to do is, I think it would have been great, and there may be some data out there regarding that. I'm just not aware of it. It hasn't ever been brought forward. But I know that I think we'd like to see that before we make any impacts here, to at least know what we went from to what we went down to.
Yeah,
That
sure.
makes sense.
We can track the water level before and after. Is that? just
That would be
clear?
perfect. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. It's not going to change the fact that some of the folks, as Councilor Brunel had mentioned, that are, have land along that entity, they're not going to be any happier about it, but at the very least, we can know that if we ever get in a position like this again, we can start to anticipate a little bit, and we're going off of fact versus assumptions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just to speak a little bit more to the timeline, so sediment removal will happen first. There hasn't been anything done on the dam currently, but you will see that there's sandbags in the river, and that's preparing for the cofferdam, for cutting off the water so they can remove the sediments and then remove the dam below it, so we're not working in the water for that work. So that's already in the river. They'll remove the sediments first to make sure that everything is out and clean, kind of what you were getting at there, that remove what's there before you move anything else. And so once the mercury-contaminated sediments are out of the water, then they'll sort of remobilize for a little bit and then start moving the dam. We expect that to be sort of starting before the end of the month, and we'll be out of the water before September 30th. So complete, done.
The mercury contamination, I'm sure that there have been many measurements that you folks have made to get an understanding of where that's at, so you can understand where to best go at and find the highest levels and then remove that sediment. Is that something that's been monitored over the years? And I'm assuming, I'm just trying to understand this better. So with that being said, has there been has the mercury level lowered, maintained?
It's maintained. It's
Okay.
It's not going anywhere.
I just want to, again, try to understand a little bit better what it is that we're driving
We know
at.
where it is, how much there is.
Okay.
So we have fairly specific. We did a study. I believe Wright Pierce did some work for Atlantic Salmon Federation for us to determine where that material was, and they gave us the levels and everything. So we have some pretty good data.
After the contaminants are removed, how long before you make another initial test to see how successful you are?
We will be testing as we do it to
Okay.
make sure that what we get and how much it is, and we'll check again after we're done, make sure we got it all.
Is there a timeline that, and again, I'm asking because I want to understand. So you finish, you're doing testing along the way, you get the result that you hoped for with the removal of the sediment. Do you come back a year later and test, or how does that work? No, it's just a one and done kind of thing?
No, one and done. We have to be out of the water by the 30th of September.
Okay.
So we want to get this one and done. We don't want to come back.
Why the September 30th? Why?
That is our work window that DEP has given us and the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a work window associated with fish passage and other things in the river.
Okay.
And I think, just to clarify, Danny, so they're going to be doing all the testing in the dry, essentially, because that cofferdam is in place, those sandbags. And so that's why they're testing now and why they won't come back and test again, because once that cofferdam is out, it's going to be difficult to get water away to test again.
Okay. Thank you for the clarifying.
Anybody else have any questions in the room? I know what we're thinking up here. You've heard it. What are you guys thinking?
Is there a burden to the town?
Financially? As far as we know, no, would be the answer on our behalf, maybe, unless Diane can do. I mean, basically, from what we've heard as a council, there's actually no financial
No,
from
the
our end.
state is paying for this. We're pooling money from a variety of sources. From DMR is paying for the dam removal. DEP is paying for the mercury sediment removal. We're getting money from VRAP brownfields. We're pooling money from everywhere for this, but the town is not chipping in anything.
No.
Yes, you're welcome to.
That was my question about the water pipe. If it needs to come out, this is the time to do it, especially if it sounds like it's going to be hanging in the air, basically, because the water's not going to be around it, right? It's basically just going to be sitting there, right, out and open.
Well, if you're going to shrink it down 5 times the size of it is right now, you're going to see the end of that pipe sticking out both sides of that side of the river.
Is it pretty much on the base of the river at this point? I don't even no idea where that.
That's our understanding.
We'll find out, right? I guess you'll see it, right?
So something for us to look into, I guess. For
I'm
that.
all good.
It'll be empty, so there's nothing flowing through that old pipe anymore.
Is there anything else any one of us has? I want to thank you for coming tonight. I know this has been at times a little adversarial, so I will say that we have our constituents best in mind, and we understand also very clearly that this is a benefit to our community by removing any sort of contaminants. Nobody wants mercury in the stream. Nobody wants the contaminants from the landfill wandering down the waterway, but it does have an impact on the experience and the tax dollars that people spend. So it's gonna raise the ire, and I'm sure this isn't the first time you guys have dealt with something like this along the way. So
I felt, and I explained it to everyone else, and they felt the same way, that you weren't aware of the other projects that we've been working on for years. And I thought that it was a good idea to inform you of all of it. So, and it's helpful, I think, to make decisions and to know. So,
We thank you for taking the time to come in tonight.
thank you.
Mine's dead, so I'm going to peek on yours again.
Oh, sure. You can,
Yeah, check my, no, I'm good. No, just right there. You could. Just not, typically I'm stealing it, then you kind of wonder.
Okay.
Mug it.
You are okay. Next item. Sorry.
Good news and recognition.
All right. Who's got what? Anyone?
I'm all good.
Good news recognition? Anyone? Bueller?
I got nothing, sir.
I'll take a moment just to recognize, because I didn't get the opportunity to attend her goodbye lunch. I just want to take a moment to thank Tracy Stuber for all of her time here with Lisbon. We really think that she did a fantastic job when she was here for us. Some of the contributions that she made are reflected in some of the work that's been done in this town. So I'd like to acknowledge her contributions and her hard work here. Thank you for that.
She'll be missed.
Next, nope. Anybody else got anything? I was trying to fix something.
Good news recognition.
There you
Sir.
are.
Ray Schlotterbeck, Lisbon. Jessica Schlotterbeck from Girl Scout Troop 2133 has almost completely finished her project of making a bocce court up at the high school behind the tennis courts. This is for her gold award. She's had a lot of help from a lot of different people. Randy in the Public Works, Alan Ward came out and helped build the foundation. LJL donated some materials. The only thing that she's really got left to do is to get a sign of some kind made. So if you have a sign maker you have in mind, we'd be happy to send our way. But it's going to be there for the community to use. We'd like to see people go out there and start playing bocce. At this point, you need your own bocce set, but we'd like to see people come out there and use it and have some fun and get a little exercise and enjoy the fresh air. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
And your daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Thank your daughter, Jessica.
Check the hair.
Anyone else? Good news recognition?
I like you, Ray.
Next item.
Public hearings, we have none. The audience participation and response for agenda items is next.
At this time, anyone in the audience who would like to come up and discuss any items on the agenda, feel free to do so. Anyone? Going once, going twice.
Pick a number.
Next item, please.
Is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2019-158 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 723-2019 for $11,113.40. Number 724-2019 for $9,759. 1907W3 for $18,597.64. 190801 for $214,324.59. Number 99 for $8,915.56. 862019 for $466,833.29. 08082019 for $152,695.35. 1908W2 for $17,541.72. 190815 for $210,502.71. The school accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 1003 for $269,357.37. 1004 for $9,426.26. Number 3 for $3,598.28. 1005 for $3,549.01. Number 5 for $795.64. Number 1006 for $310,374.11. Number 1007 for $270,976.69. Number 1008 for $9,453. Number 1923 for $1,993.95. Number 2001 for $108,754.19. Along with the council meeting minutes of July 16, 2019, the off-premise catering permit for the Slovak Catholic Association, the timeline for the referendum questions for November 5, 2019 ballot, and to set the public hearings on September 3 for bond questions for the Lisbon Water Department's infrastructure for $6 million, and the municipal road construction and improvements for $1.5 million, and to cast a ballot for the slate of officers presented for the MMA Vice President and Executive Committee members.
I'll make a motion as you take a deep breath.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item.
Under Council Orders, Resolutions, and Ordinances, Order 2019-159, the contract extension for Oliver Associates.
Well, Steve Abioli with the Sewer Department. As you're already aware, we've been using Oliver Associates for basically our professional engineering for any engineering we've needed for the town since October 2014. The contract we currently have with them is due to expire at the end of this October. After my discussions with Mandy Oliver, they have offered to provide a 5-year extension using the same terms and rates of the current contract we're working under. And with that extension, we'll be able to keep them on board for engineering work they're already doing for us that will not be completed till approximately 2022, as long as DOT stays on their current schedule for Main Street for the rebuild. They keep delaying it year after
Building in a buffer is what you're saying.
To that effect, yes. We could run into an issue with our rural development funding because of the way DOT is doing Main Street, which we won't know until we cross that bridge.
Okay.
But yeah, Oliver Associates, they've been a huge asset, mainly for the sewer department. Majority of the work they've done for the town has been for our department. They have assisted, the economic development and somewhat with public works over the course of that 5 years. And we'd really like to keep them on board, and we'd recommend extending that contract if you'll approve it.
Yeah. How will we actually, is that based on hours per year, or is that actually, how's the contract written right now? Is it
It's
for
actual billable hours.
it's actual billable hours? So basically, it's their contract basically is just setting a hourly
That's
price
right.
for our
Correct.
for our use, and that's the same price we've actually paid over the last 5 years.
Yes,
So
correct.
it's not increasing.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything in our charter or ordinance that actually would require us to go out for bid for this, or is this something we have the flexibility to actually
You have all the flexibility.
I know they've actually worked well with you.
Yes.
Not sure, Chair, if you want to move forward, if there's any other questions or not, I'd make a motion, but
Is there any other questions regarding this contract?
Fern asked mine. I was going to ask about the purchasing policy and if we had the luxury, because that would tie it up for 10 years actually to one person, and do we have the luxury to be able to do so?
Asked and answered.
Yes.
They say in 2014, when we went out, put this out, an RFP out for engineering services, Oliver, if I remember correctly, came in well under the next closest bidder.
Yeah.
To do that
No,
for
I
5
don't
years.
think it's anything about that. It's just whether somebody would actually scrutinize their work because it's going to one person versus the open bid process.
Understood.
I have another question, but I'm not sure if it needs to be done at this point in time, so
Go ahead.
maybe.
We're here.
Again, you had actually alluded to the idea that potentially there could be some grant concerns if this project was to go way out. What is our window of opportunity for a grant? When does that actually expire?
We are required to use the funding that we have for these projects within 5 years of being granted them. So right now, 2022 would be the final year that we have. During our most recent meeting with Rural Development, I asked a question that if this were to run past that 5-year window, is it possible to get an extension? And they said it's very possible. It's hard to answer it at this time because there's basically 3 years out before we'd get to that point.
Moving forward, again, this is just a broad discussion, but I would love to see actually the town and the water department and all entities actually have a contingency plan on how do we move forward with this. And only being, I had an opportunity to hang out with Bill quite a bit on Moxie Day, and we could be in the same scenario as they are, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over the actually this year, just repairing stuff that we're going to replace to later on actually just rip up. And unfortunately, the state, I'd love to say 2022 is going to be the year, but if they have 15 projects canceled this year and those don't actually get put back into a different order or rearranged or some magic fund comes into place, I'm not holding my breath to 2022. I really don't. So, I think we actually as a community have to have have to have a really good game plan saying if this doesn't happen by a certain date, this is how we get it done and allow that to happen. I mean, it'd be one thing if they cancel 1 or 2 projects this year, but when they're canceling projects that far out and really just pushing off what they have right now, unless some magic money comes down to pipe, I don't know how this all plays out. But again, it's just one of those things, hearing that concern, the last thing we want to do is actually lose money that we actually got that we need to use.
In reality, if we got to a point that it was pushed out too far, the funding's already there to replace the sewer line, we would replace the sewer line. The issue we would run into is we'd be stuck trench paving 1 mile worth of Main Street, which wouldn't be ideal.
But 2022, that road's not going to look like a road if you're actually starting to see some of the patching that's done right now. I mean, some of it, we did some quick patching 2 years ago, which eventually is just going to start falling apart too. So I mean, that road it's going to have some public attention, and after a while, when you actually have a lot more that's patched in the road. But 22 is a long ways out.
Yes, it is, and that's why we want to do the sewer line, and I'm sure the water department will want to do their water main at the same time the DOT projects is occurring, just because of the cost savings in just pavement alone. Yep.
It's a challenge. There's no good answer to it. I realize that, but I just, at some point in time, we do got to make a plan that this doesn't fulfill, to actually just try to take care of it. And unfortunately, we may have a whole new water line by then. Who knows, right, Bill? Piecemeal, but a new water line. So I'll make a motion for the
To accept all of the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next item.
Order 2019-160, authorization to solicit bids for a new police department server.
We talked about this during the budget process, that we needed to update and replace the server, so now we're just requesting permission to go out to bid. As you recall, we do have money that we set aside from the fiscal year 19 budget to pay for this.
Is this just the purchase of the server itself, not the installation of?
I'm going to do the whole packet and see what we get.
Or I assume are we looking at using Roundtable as a partner, or are we going to bid out to see who's going to do the install? I'm trying to understand.
Well, when we did the server here in this building, we just did the server, and then Roundtable did all the installation because they have to work on it.
Right.
And they have our contract. We can do it. They would prefer us doing it that way, but I would like to do the whole thing just to see what we get for prices for installation.
Okay, great, because that's what I definitely was leaning that way as well.
Okay, that's how I want to, we'll see. They may end up with it, but I think we should do the whole
For
package.
something on our network, would that negate anything with Roundtable for what we're contractually obligated to do?
Our contract runs year to year at this point, correct?
Yes, it does, yeah.
So when will we be talking about this being installed? If we moving forward the bid, how quickly would we anticipate, or do we want to move on this? I'm asking.
I think we have to, Chief. He can speak more to what's going on in his side of the building, but
yeah, I mean, the server is outdated. It's got some issues, and according to Roundtable, it could go at any time, in which case we're going to be in a bad way over there as far as all of our reports, everything that we have, obviously these days is electronic.
So we're living on borrowed time is what Roundtable
Yes.
says.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to remember that from the, and so if that's the case, if you want to go out just to get bids for everything,
Yes.
Everything includes our own current partner, is that right?
yes, it does, yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's what, so Alan, to that point, we're going to get a bid from our partner in Roundtable, but we're also going to just look at others that are out there as well, just to see what the competition.
Do we know what Roundtable's hourly rate is, right?
Yep.
So
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but, and I don't know if.
The point I would make, you might actually want to consider doing the installation as an optional bid
As an
item.
option, I'll do it, yeah.
To be able to do so, because then you could have the conversation. It just seems like you're asking somebody to actually maintain the integrity of your system, but now you're allowing a third party to install something that they're going to have to eat as well too, and that just could be.
And that's their concern too, and that's why we did it the other way
it's a
when we did
legitimate
it,
concern
but I
from their
just,
perspective.
but I still think we ought to.
No, I would pursue the
I'll do them
optional.
separately, but they'll all be included in one bid package, so we'll
You'll
have
make
the.
a recommendation to us
That's
whether
right,
it makes sense to
right.
be able to do so, because
Yep.
gives you time to
Yep.
prepare.
I just didn't want you to think I was gonna just bid out the
No.
server and then they were gonna do the work. I'm gonna have a line item for the server and a line item for the labor.
Perfect.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
All in favor? Thanks,
6-0.
Chief.
Order
Thank you.
passed.
Next item.
Order 2019-161, the award a bid for skid steer.
Good evening, Randy.
Randy Sear, Public Works Director. Good evening, everyone. As you probably noticed in the notes, we only got 2 out of 4 bids passed in. Jordan Equipment was the lowest at $49,568.95. Milton Cat came in at $59,900. It's been my recommendation to give it to Jordan Equipment. The others didn't pass any in because the specs that we're going after, they knew they would be priced right out, and they were looking at between $10,000 and $15,000 more.
Okay.
That's what they basically told me. I asked them to just drop some off anyway so we could try them all, and they said they weren't even going to do that because customarily, most of the time, a lot of the other municipalities, we get such a great municipal discount that they weren't able to give us anything.
I'll make the motion.
I will second it for discussion.
Okay, who's got questions?
I just have a question. Long term of this machine, I mean, what do you think, Randy, on something like this, if it's properly maintained and everything? Is this a 5-year machine or 20-year machine or
20, 25 years. The thing that'll kill this, if it's subjected to snow, the ice, salt, sorry. That's what kills these things more than anything else. They'll still be running, but then they'll just start leaking and you have to start replacing everything. But I would say it's a 20-year plus machine anyway.
Yep. And then have we actually looked into the possibility of the discussion of selling the other one out once we actually get this? Is that still a discussion that we're having as far as selling the other piece of machinery? Or
I did call down a Viking and asked what they got for some of their used machinery, and it's on the around $5,000 mark. That's a really old machine. It's in the 90s. It's beneficial for us to probably just keep it and use it for sweeping operations because some of our sidewalks are very narrow, and it's primarily, that's basically all we use it for now is just our sweeping operations.
And we spent a pretty good chunk of change to get it back up and running recently.
Yeah, we did go all through it. We put new drive shafts in it, new PTO shaft. We put a new throttle response. It's a throttle valve because basically it wouldn't stop once you got to go and you had to shut it off because it wouldn't, the spring inside wouldn't stop it. It would just keep going. So we fixed all that stuff, so it made it
safe,
a little more user friendly. You don't have to reach down and pull the pedal up anymore with your hand. So and then we bought a new sweeper for it. So for sweeping operations, and as opposed to what you're going to get for it, you're probably only going to get $5-6 grand for it, seeing as the sweeper's fairly new, and then they're getting everything else for it. I think it's better just to keep it.
We're not going to run at full speed into any ice and snow
What's that,
banks.
Steve?
About a year ago, put a $7,000 axle on there.
yeah,
So you basically just be getting the money back for that axle.
yeah. As long as long term wise, we're not actually. I mean, one of the justifications of actually buying the skid steer is the idea of not actually keep maintaining an old machine. You mean
Right.
so? I mean, we don't want to keep throwing good money after bad. You mean so?
Yeah, I think we've thrown all the good money we're going to throw into it to make it last a good amount longer. I mean, because we're not using it for snow operations anymore. It's basically just our sweeping operation. So, I mean, right now it's basically down and it won't be back up until next spring.
You know, if it serves a purpose, I'm all for it. As long as
Right.
It's not actually maintaining something that's not.
I think what we'd get back from selling it as opposed to keeping it for our sweeping operations, it's better to keep it. That's my opinion anyway.
Gotcha. Yep. Just curious. I know that was a discussion we had last time.
Right.
All set.
Anyone else? Anything else?
It's under the fund balance allocation on.
So there was a motion, there was a second, all in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
No toy in the house.
Be used by all departments.
Should say, Randy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you're going far. I said goodbye, Randy, but I should have. Next item, Twyla.
Order 2019-162, the 2019-2020 bid.
All right, as you can see from the numbers, AvCog, we're going to continue with them with the salt bid. It actually went down $1.20 per ton for us in the south. So now we'll be paying $57 per ton. and I don't think we'll have any issues as far as meeting our 75% quota, even though I did raise our tonnage to 500, extra 500 to 3,500 ton. We've been customarily for the past years that we looked into, we've been going over our allotted, so that's why I raised it 500 ton. If we don't use it, but I guess from our previous numbers, we'll still be in the 75%, so we'll have the break to.
I mean, it's unreasonable to think that even if we actually didn't use it, we could actually still stockpile it for the following year if we have a location to keep it. I mean,
if we had a new salt shed, it'd be great.
I hear ya. But I'm just saying, it's either you either take it or you lose it,
What's
basically.
that? I think you're breaking up, sir.
New salt shed.
What are we doing on that same idea? What are we doing? Because I know in years past we've been, we've run out and had a tough time getting it here when we needed it. So what's the plan of attack?
Well, when we really need it, we can go to Lewiston and we can like borrow some basically until they get, and then it comes off our account, which is nice. Well, we have communities that will actually share, but just keeping track of your salt usage and making sure you pre-plan a storm. We've customarily been, and plus now that we have a wheeler coming in, if we really run out or we really know we're not going to get any, we can go get it ourselves down in Portland. So, and it's about 12 yards of a whack that we can get. So,
decent.
4 or 5 loads would get us through a storm, But I am working on numbers for the salt shed, by the way.
Excellent.
And
excellent.
It's not looking like
Chair?
the 250 is going to work.
To be cheaper? Well, it's awesome.
I'm sorry.
Well, we've got,
your mic cut out. I didn't hear you there.
I've got other options, but it could happen because the foundation that we have there now actually could work.
Okay.
I unearthed it to see what the concrete looked like underneath all the sand. Probably just a little bit in the front would have to be replaced, but we could use all the existing concrete.
I like that.
Yeah, so the same footprint we could actually use. So, working on it.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Don't stop.
And thanks for having a game plan, because I think that helps us all kind of sleep a little better at night, knowing full well. Not that there wasn't a game plan previous, but I think that was the times when you hear things like, well, we don't have it and we're waiting to get it, always makes you a little leery because you don't know when the snow is going to come by and bite us.
No, we can always get it. So
good.
Want somebody to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
You made the point of actually saying you increased the tonnage by 500.
That's correct.
One of the things that you talked about during the budget deliberations, if not one of the spring presentations, was looking at making some of the changes because it wasn't effectively being utilized. Do they run in conflict with each other?
What was not being effectively utilized was the calcium, the liquid calcium. They were, for the proper term, they were thinking they were going to nuke it instead of plow it.
Right.
The mentality that was going on. But we have a seminar coming up. I don't know if it's the end of this month or the end of next month, but it's on usage because we have new employees that probably are not too but I can lock them out so they can only be set at a certain amount and they won't be able to play with it. So if they don't listen,
so you're saying to me that you think that the usage is realistic for what we have for a need. Okay, and that's what I needed to hear.
Yes, it's realistic. And me coming into it in February,
right,
knowing where we were and what we used, I try to gauge it as far as that. But if next year we've used way less, then I'll reduce my salt intake.
Right.
But at least I'm not going to be caught without, the money to actually buy what I need.
Sure. And then to Fern's point, the fact that you fill the salt shed in June, Lewiston's done the same thing.
Right.
When it's at its lowest point, you've already got it budgeted. You fill the shed.
I actually took what I had left from last year's budget and filled my salt shed with what I had left. So I got a jump on it, basically.
So you're hoping through education and oversight of you folks down there that you see a change.
That in the process of which they do things, because if we got an 8-inch, 10-inch storm and they're going out 3 or 4 times, you don't have to sand in between or salt in between every plowing because the salt is not an aggregate. It's not a sand. It's not there for traction. It's there to melt the snow. So if they're putting it down so nobody's slipping and sliding, essentially they got to wait until it melts, because the granule, yeah, it's granule, and you'll probably get some traction out of it, but that's not what it's meant for. So our thing is, if you're going to go back in another hour, why lay it down heavy and then plow it off in the ditch? So it's going to be a lot less usage. Do it on your hills and your turns and your intersections, and then the rest of it is just going to get plowed. Cutting back on the use quite a bit.
Good.
So it's maybe a different discussion next year at this point, is what he's telling us. So.
Sounds like that to me, too. All right, so I heard a motion. Can I hear a
Just
second?
a second.
There was? All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
I believe there was
Thank you,
anyways.
sir.
If not, there is now, right?
Next item.
Order 2019-163 to set the workshop for the solid waste discussion. Looks like 9/17/2019 at 6 p.m. It's a recommendation.
Looks like it's set. I'll make that motion.
I'm seconding that. All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
There it is. Pretty agreeable bunch.
The only question I have on that, maybe before we voted on it, is are we gonna?
That ship is
before we vote on it, was the idea of not so much the date of it, but actually, who's actually been responsible for getting the correct parties here for that workshop? Is that something that's
Randy will.
Randy will actually work on that, and I don't mean to get you back up. I was just funny.
I will be in contact with like the commercial haulers.
Okay.
Like I was telling Don, anybody that has any, real input on any solutions that might be benefit the transfer station is welcome to come.
Yeah.
I mean, the public knows now. I mean, if they want to show up, fine. I mean, we got to actually, think of an alternative to what's going on there right now.
Can we actually use our website to actually maybe publicize that well ahead of time so we can actually make sure people know? I think that's, there's a lot of social media today. I think it's going to be something a lot of people have interest in. There was a lot of talk recently, so it'd be nice to actually have people aware. So it's an active
I don't want to sit here and think that I have all the answers, because I really don't. So anybody's input to a better way of doing it, I'm all game.
Sounds good. All right, I just
Mr.
wanted
Chair,
to ask.
do we have a meeting before that September workshop?
We have on September 3rd.
Can we put on the next council agenda to get an idea of what the tentative workshop agenda would look like, so we know what kind of shit show we may be walking into?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
Bleep.
No,
Twilight, hit him with the button.
We were having mic trouble earlier.
Sure
That's
thing.
not Alan. Alan wouldn't do that. Something wrong with the mic.
Sorry.
You're not
We
sorry.
have your point, though.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Message received.
Next.
Other business, council committee reports.
School committee report, getting ready to go back to school. There we go. There's my report. Spoken like a mom.
You're next, Alan.
Yeah, you're next.
Planning. Don, I have to defer to you because I did make the last meeting and I tried to pull the agenda and cannot get it here. Thank you, sir.
Last planning board meeting, we were supposed to have, we had scheduled to have a site plan review for Sassy Strides Farm. That's been put off till next meeting. We did have Crystal Spring Healing Alternatives, which is a medical marijuana outfit, and their hearing is set for the next meeting, and we'll have a site visit before the meeting. And then Rick Mason has a rear lot application with a hearing. The only other thing is we will have the access management ready for a vote at our meeting next time, and then if it passes, we'll send it on to you guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. LDC, councilors.
Not a whole lot since last time. We should have a meeting coming up shortly, and hopefully we can publicize it. So if there's any interest, people can attend.
Perfect. Conservation Commission, Alan?
Conservation, I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Recreation, Cassie?
Summer camp has ended, and they're doing sign-ups and whatnot for fall sports.
Fall sports, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
County budget? I don't think it's
County,
done yet.
their first meeting for budget at the commissioners level is August 14th. There's a schedule out there that ours, meaning the budget committee, is, I want to say, the second Wednesday in September, so that's becoming soon. My intent would be to hit at least the public hearing where they recap everything they did for a stopping point towards the end of August.
Cool. last but not least, the library.
The summer reading program concluded, and there's a lot of participation, and a lot of kids read a lot of books this year, and it was a big success.
Like over 1,500 hours or something, right?
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I saw the social media post. They should be proud. It was pretty good turnout this summer, so good for them. Good for all the staff that worked so hard to get that done. Next item.
The department head written reports.
Nope, town manager.
Oh, I went too far. Sorry about that. There we go.
So, as most people know, the tax bills have been in the mail. The good news is our mill went down this year. It went down $1.74 down to $23.10. But what the assessor had to do is she had to change the values, adjust the values across the board on all the land, and then on just residential homes only because of the sales in the past year when we did the cost schedules and just the home sales in this area. When the state assessor came down and did the audit, the homes are selling for much more than what they're assessed at. So in order for us to stay at the 100%, so we could get 100% of the homestead exemption, the veterans exemptions, we had to adjust those values up some, and that's why most people are seeing an increase in their taxes.
Could we get something to that effect
Yes.
on the website, and then maybe even print it up and at the at the front desk there, so that folks, because that seems to be obviously a hot topic right now. So I think it'd be very important when somebody comes in with their tax bill and they're coming in hot, they can at least get an understanding from something that they can lay their eyes on if they don't have access to the web.
And Kathy, I believe, has something, but we'll get something up for you on that.
Thank you very much.
And if, obviously, if anybody has any questions regarding their values, they need to talk to the assessor about that.
Is that a statewide thing? The library too. A lot of people might just go in there and see that.
Is that a statewide thing, or is it anomaly in this area?
I think it's statewide. I think it's because of the housing statewide.
The reason I
know
ask is
some
because
other
put us in a
communities that are doing
disadvantage
it.
for the state valuation 2 years from now when the education and the county catch up with us.
Yeah. But there's other communities that are doing the same thing.
Somebody say Trump.
Okay. That being said,
you want to do 2020 too? Where are you going with this?
All right, I'm going to bring us back around. Next item.
Good luck with
The
that
department
too.
head written reports.
Anybody have any questions on the department head written reports as they stand?
No, sir.
Next item.
Appointments, Order 2019-164, the sealer awaits measures. Do you have his name?
I don't.
Yes.
It's in here, isn't it? What is his name?
Make the motion.
Second it.
Same character, same.
It's the same player. All the other communities.
I just don't remember his name. That's why.
I don't remember.
I talked to him, Lewis, and they did a complete reversal. Everybody's getting on board. This is the guy you want because he's the only one in the area that's got the credentials to back it up.
What Alan said.
Brian Batchelder.
Yeah.
Ryan
Thank you.
Batchelder.
Brian.
Brian?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Batchelder.
And Wayne, my second on Alan's information. If it's wrong, it's his.
Right.
Okay, so the motion.
The second.
It's got a condition on it.
As a first and a second, all in favor from Mr. Brian Batchelder?
Right.
All right, thank you, Brian. Sorry we butchered your name.
No, I think it's good.
Next item?
Order passed 6-0.
Yes.
Counselor Communications.
Anyone? Anything?
Next.
Yeah, I know. We got something coming up in executive session. Can we talk about it there, too?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think we should probably do it there.
Right on.
I mean, bring it out.
It meet to the point of the listening public in the eye. It actually meets the criteria of an executive session.
It does.
So I just want that point known.
Yeah, no.
That's the only way you're going with that, but okay.
Yeah, no. It's
So when you come out of executive session, we should program this so that you
There
can turn
should
it back
be
on.
some
Yeah.
thing to formalize that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anything else? Next item.
Audience participation for new items.
Anyone in the audience at this time want to come up and feel free to do so? Just speak clearly into the mic. Let us know who you are and what part of Lisbon you reside in.
Next. Just Lisbon, right? I mean, that's Lisbon as a whole, right?
I just said what part of Lisbon you reside in. I didn't say you have to tell me you're in the Falls. I just said tell me your address. That's all.
Next.
Seeing nothing. Next item, please.
Executive session, order 2019-165, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, section 4056C, acquisition of real property or economic development.
We already established that people would be coming back, so if they want to rejoin us, they can wait in the foyer.
Yep. I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
And the motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
17.
No, the light was on. That's the thing. It was weird.
And then you're going to stay in here, right?
But what happened then was that
This is on.
turn it into blue, where that orange light is, it's flashing blue, so it's still juice. So I said, well, that was my assumption. So I said, all right, let me try a different one. I gave you mine.